Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Fantasy Roundup Week 6 edition. I'm your host, Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Alongside me, Gabe Henderson. It's been a wild start to the season, Gabe. We're 5 weeks in. How are you hanging in there?
This was a tough week for a lot of people, but I got some close wins in fantasy, and I'm looking good, feeling good.
For sure, man. Yeah, I had some good ones too. Also some rough ones. I think my overall record this week was, I think it was 8-8. I think I broke even, so not too upset, but could have done a lot better. I left a lot of meat on the bone. That's what I was just telling you before the show. I had some leagues where I just made the wrong lineup decisions. Had one that Jordan Love's interception last night cost me, so it's just some heartbreak. But had some triumphs though. Listener league 5-0, so can't complain. Just trials and tribulations of fantasy. But we've got a packed show for y'all today. Got a trade candidates. We're gonna focus it in on trade candidates. Buy low, sell high. Which player should you trade away? Which player should you trade for? Also got week 6 waiver wire ads. And yeah, that's our main topics. But we also got the listener league. We're gonna get to that, talk about updated standings and injuries. Once again, have a lot of injuries this week. Didn't realize before the show, I was like, we'll make this week trades. And think there are that many injuries. But then Justin Jefferson, Devon A-Chain, James Conner, a lot of injuries did occur. So let's get to that here in our headlines before we transition over to our trade talk. Justin Jefferson placed on the IR, hamstring injury, out at least 4 weeks. And I'm worried, man. I got Jefferson in some leagues, and we'll talk more about it, but it sounded like he might be out longer than the 4 weeks. But hopefully he just indeed misses the 4 weeks. Devon A-Chain and James Conner both suffered knee injuries and will be out multiple weeks. Conner was just placed on the IR. A-Chain, they're not sure yet, thinking it might be the same for the dynamic rookie. What a shame. He's had over 100 yards the past 3 weeks and now suffered a dreaded knee injury. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. Anthony Richardson, another promising rookie, AC joint sprain, except unlike Derek Carr's, his was the severe AC joint sprain where he's going to be out multiple weeks. Gardner Minshew, the mustache mania, going to get to start the next few weeks. And then Van Jefferson, not a huge deal, but somewhat noteworthy. Van Jefferson traded from the Rams to the Falcons. Falcons really needing some wide receiver help there, Gabe. I know you're not an Arthur Smith fan, but, Van Jefferson might help a little bit. I mean, Ritter did a little better, so we'll see.
Put it this way, Spencer. In Atlanta, I don't think the personnel is the problem.
Is Arthur Smith.
But you know what? Props to him, as I'll talk about here in a little bit. He's been he got it going last weekend.
Yeah, he faced your Texans. So, yeah, you're talking. He must have heard you, Gabe, because he unleashed Desmond Ritter, and it seemed like their passing attack actually was fairly decent. And Troy is thinking a Tua bounce back in the cars. Because, the Dolphins won, but Tua not with a huge week against the Giants. He's thinking a huge week coming up against the Panthers. I could see it. I mean, the Panthers, they are horrible. So. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, injury updates here. Unfortunately, the Dolphins had one of those key injuries there with Devon A-Chain, because the thing with the Dolphins, which I'll get to later in waiver wire ads, but there's a certain Dolphins running back that's worth picking up this week, because the Dolphins are the #1 rushing offense in the NFL right now. In the offseason, everyone's like, oh, well, the Dolphins can throw it, but they can't run it. Shoot, their rushing attack's been just as good or better than their passing attack. Not to knock Tua, but it's like it's nice having a running game like that, and also with the weapons, he can basically just kick back and sit in the hammock there. So I guess we'll start with A-Chain, Gabe. That's tough to see, man. A promising rookie like that go down. So it's just, what are your thoughts, man? Just, do you feel like this is one of those things? The people that drafted him didn't take him too high, but I feel like at this point you're starting to get dependent on him as a must start. So if you have A-Chain, where do you go from here?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said people who have him didn't draft him too high. So, while it is nice having those guaranteed points and those big performances from the last few weeks, I feel like anyone who has him, unless they traded a bunch of players away in the meantime, is going to be fine. So, it stinks for the Miami offense because they don't have as many explosive players. Not that they have a shortage now that he's out, but I think they'll be just fine on offense overall. But it does stink for HN owners.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, he was one that he may have been in my sell high list, but now that he's injured, you just gotta stay the course. Hold on to him, put him in your IR spot, and when he comes back, he should be good here. Justin Jefferson, we're about to get to here. Super C and B Challengers asking what is his trade value right now. Just got offered him for James Cook and Jordan Addison in a PPR. Oh man, like I was saying earlier, doesn't look like Jefferson's gonna be back anytime soon. Definitely out the next 4. And they're saying if the Vikings fall out of contention, he might have the dreaded shutdown happen if they're out of contention. Where I don't think I'd do this trade. I know James Cook had a bad week last week, but he's a guy that's still in a good position in a good offense. And then Addison without Jefferson should really see his numbers tick up. So I don't think I'd do this, man. I'd ask for more. I mean,
I'd have to
Jefferson.
see the rest of the team, but I'm inclined to disagree. I think I would take it, just because you're never going to get Jefferson at a value like that. Yeah, I mean it would depend on who he has in the rest of his ranks to fill in, but I think I would probably take it.
I got you. I just don't think I could risk it because the Vikings just aren't in a good spot right now. Like 1-4, like in that division with the Lions trending up. Like Green Bay. Yeah, I guess Green Bay and the Bears aren't that good, so you could say, oh, maybe they could still get a wild card, but I just don't feel good about it. Like, I just don't think I'd do this. But if you get, ask for another running back with, as to where then you can offset the loss of James Cook, then I'd probably do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have running backs to replace Cook in your ranks, then I think that's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, good point, Troy. Jeff Wilson coming back. We'll get to him later on in the waiver segment. Just spilled the tea for y'all. That's one of my waiver pickups. But Jeff Wilson Jr. and Chase Claypool added to Miami offense. Yeah, that helps. I mean, Claypool though, I don't think is gonna do a whole lot. Wilson, that's a very convenient time for Jeff Wilson to return out at 8 chains out. That I think significant. Again, I'll give my full thoughts on that later. But yeah, I saw you shake your head, Gabe, about Chase Claypool. I'm with you on that. I mean, he might not even beat out Robbie Chosen. He might not even make the roster.
I mean, people love to flock to these receivers or even running backs who get added to new teams midseason. But I'm like Cam Akers. I was never touching Cam Akers, even though he's on a new team. I'm not touching Chase Claypool either. I think that's really underselling how hard it is to join a new team, learn that offense, and become an important piece. And, that's coming from Chase Claypool, who's had no part to play in his current offense. So I don't think he's even worth a flyer in deep leagues. I mean, I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, Troy's in. He could play some tight end. Man, he's not gonna be able to learn a new position that quick. I mean, maybe if this is the off season, I'd be like maybe take a flyer. But we've seen it was a Kelvin Benjamin a few years ago. They tried to make a tight end. Or Booger McFarland was like, he's a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end. Then a couple of years later, they actually did sign him as a tight end somewhere, but he didn't even make the team. So yeah, sorry, Chase Claypool. It just seems like he's just a guy that he had potential, but I think is just he missed the boat.
Yeah, he might get a few jet sweeps. he might get a few runs. Be brought in for that, but no, I mean he's got no value in fantasy in my opinion, not at this moment in time.
Let's see. Tyler brings up a good point here about not sure how Addison will be drawing more coverage. The thing with that is though they've still got KJ Osborne, which is another name. They're talking about all my waiver wire ads already. That's another name I have on the list because he's the guy that is expected to fill the Jefferson role. They still got Hawkinson. So there's enough weapons there. I don't see Addison being double teamed or anything like that. Because if they double team him, then they're going to go to Hawkinson and Osborne and whoever else fills in 3 wide sets. So I'm not worried about that. But he's got a trade question for him. I want to trade Logan Thomas and Sutton for Pickens. I have Waller. Am I high? No, that's not a bad deal because, I mean, if you have Waller, you don't really need Logan Thomas. And with Sutton, to me, Pickens is a pretty good upgrade over Sutton. I'd take advantage of that depth and go ahead and do that deal.
Yeah, I probably would too. Logan Thomas isn't anything special at the tight end position. The one thing I will say is Sutton is a consistent receiver, but I wouldn't blame you for moving on from anyone in the Denver offense. I don't hate this deal. I do worry about Waller, but you can get a tight end in free agency that's going to be just as effective as Logan Thomas to be his backup.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, for sure, Super CNB, we got you, bro. We got you. All right, so our next order of business. Well, I guess we'll get to the listener league here for the loyal listeners here. I know Troy's in here; he's in the league, so let's get this listener league update in here before we do our trade candidates. Uncle Big Nick, our highest scorer. Shout out to UBN. Defeats Cameron Bucktown Rebel Jr. there by a wide margin. UBN finally had the Burrow Chase stack after a month. Finally had it pop off. So maybe UBN's got a comeback on the horizon. Started off 0-4 there, but still a long way to go. William improves to 4-1, defeated our defending champion Roy, the Bucktown Rebel there. So William, one of our contenders. Salmon trying to make a comeback after a rough start. He's now 2-3. Took down Troy. Troy had started off good, but he's been trending down a little bit. Troy's going to have to get that ship turned around here if he wants to make playoffs. My team is rolling, 5-0. Took down Joseph there, who came in doing well. The Bayou Bandits, who was 3-1. Defeated him there, so good win for my team. But Joseph still very much a contender. Good game there, bro. Mike defeated Gabe there. Gabe had, or I think this is your worst week of the year, Gabe. So you're still 3-2 though, so not sitting bad there. Still in playoff contention. And then Latino Heat, shout out to Hank Trill, defeated the original Saints fan there, who is really having a rough start there at 0-5. So Hank Trill got a lucky break there because he didn't have a very good week either. So that was pretty interesting listener league week.
Yeah, one of those weeks where, for my team with Brian Robinson, Nico Collins, and James Conner, all single digit performances, you just got to throw your hands up and, move on to the next week. It's one of those unfortunate weeks that you really can't do much about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he'll bounce back. And yeah, my team's kind of due for a stinker. But hey, at 5-0, I can afford a stinker too. My team's sitting pretty right now. And throw Jefferson in the IR. Yeah, you need Pickens. He'll give you a little shot in the arm. So yeah, that's Pickens definitely has more upside than Sutton.
Yep, for sure.
Yep. So all right, let's get to our trade candidates. Got a couple of buy lows and sell highs from each of us here. October to me is the perfect time to make trades because we got about a month's worth of data in, so we can see how players are trending and such. So I'll start off. Like Jalen Waddle is a buy low because he's been very much still involved in Miami's offense, just hadn't really had the stats to show for it. But I'm thinking this week he's going to really pop off. They get to face Carolina. Troy was saying about how Tua should go off there, and I mean, they're definitely going to be keying in on Tyreek Hill. The running game might not be as explosive without eating. So I think this is a Waddle week. I mean, he caught I think it was his first touchdown last week and didn't do as much as he should have. He had 10 targets, but only 4 catches. So, him and Tua's chemistry might be a little bit rusty here to start. But now that we've got some time in the season, I think they'll get it going. I mean, they've had really good chemistry to Waddle's first 2 years in the league. This is year 3 together. So I expect them to really get going here. And so get Waddle now. Get him now before he has one of those 30 or 40-point weeks, because once he does that, you're not getting him.
Yep, completely agree. As a Waddle owner, I'm definitely buying low if I can in leagues that I don't have him.
Yep. And let's see. Has a start sit question here from Tyler. Do we like Sutton versus Casey or Lockett versus Cincinnati? Yeah, that's a tough one because Sutton plays Thursday night. Well, if you trade Sutton, you won't have to worry about that. Just play Lockett. So I kind of like that matchup. I think Cincy Seahawks, that could be a shootout. I'd probably go Lockett, man. He's got I just don't like what Denver's got going on there. That team's about to quit on Sean Payton, it looks like. So I'd go Lockett. Got a trade question here from the chef. Trade Andrews for Mixon or Pierce and Laporta. Wait, I'm kind of confused here. Trade Andrews for Mixon.
He's looking to trade for Mixon. He's wondering if he should
Oh,
trade
okay.
Andrews or Pierce and Laporta.
Oh, yeah, I see now. Okay, or Pierce and Laporta.
I don't love either of them, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't really be that worried about trading for Mixon. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, unless you really need running back help, Chef. But I mean, if you got the tight end depth, I'd maybe look for a better running back than Mixon. Maybe like Ken Walker or something, like someone a little more upside. I just feel like Mixon, that's a pass first offense, and Cincy Mixon is kind of on the back nine of his career. So I think I'd probably just stick with what you got. I think you can get a little more than that for, like, to me, Andrews is such a good tight end. Like, I'd keep him, and then I'd look to move Laporta. I know he's not on our list here, but I think he's a good sell high. So I'd look to move Laporta into Pierce, but I probably want to get a little better running back than Mixon. Tyler saying he'd try Andrews for Mixon. Yeah, I mean, because then you get to keep Pierce too. So, I mean, I just feel like Andrews for the rest of the season is a little more reliable than Laporta. Because, I mean, Laporta is just a rookie. So I think the numbers might be a little deceiving to start, but he definitely looks the part. So, yeah, I guess if I had to pick a side if you really want Mixon, I guess you could afford to trade Andrews, but I wouldn't. I just explore your options. I mean, it's only Tuesday, so you've got time here to kind of, to negotiate. It's not like this is Friday or Saturday where it's crunch time. Running backs are Taylor, Swift, Brees, Stevenson, Pierce. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Lamb, London, Pittman. Shoot, I'd look to maybe add in more receiver help. Well, I mean, you got DJ Moore, but I mean, that backfield's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Gabe's got we'll continue with our segment here with a good segue. He had Stevenson. Well, tell us why you like Ramondre Stevenson as a buy low.
Well, I mean, I think it's no secret that the New England Patriots are one of the worst teams in the league. And when we're talking about fantasy, when you look at the worst teams in the league, traditionally it's the running backs that have some sort of fantasy value. New England's offense hasn't just started struggling out of the blue. They've been pretty bad for a few years now. And Ramondre Stevenson's still gotten his. A lot of people are down on him after a few weeks, but look at the defenses he's played, Spencer. He's played some of the league's best defenses over the last few weeks. The Patriots have gotten absolutely pummeled, so they're not looking to run the ball really. But I think, we'll see Stevenson get more involved. And I think right now there's a lot of fantasy owners that are willing to quit on him immediately because of how high he was taken in drafts and how he's produced so far. I just think, if you're a team who needs running back help, then I think Stevenson could be someone that you could sneakily go after and get because he's got better performances ahead of him. That's for sure.
Yeah, Tyler's out. He's saying sell all of New England, and I feel that because, I mean, New England's so bad. So it's one of those things. Look, if I can get him for dirt cheap, I'll do it. But when I mean dirt cheap, I really mean that. If someone comes at me with, "Well, he was my second round pick, bro, or my third round pick," or I'm like, bro, yeah, he is not that right now. Yeah, when it comes to trade talk, we value and how the people are right now. So I'm not giving you a good piece for this guy because the bottom line is in that offense, he is not going to return that value. But if someone's just, like Tyler's just panicking, like, oh, what I'm not saying he's panicking, but they just kind of like, just the general consensus is sell all of New England. If someone's willing, like, all right, I just want to dump him, I'll give him to you for, I don't know, like just guy off the
Put it
bench.
this way,
like,
I saw him in one of my 9 leagues this year. I saw him go for Gus Edwards and Michael Thomas. So, I mean,
that's kind of interesting because like Michael Thomas, yeah, he's a sell high, I'd say, because I mean he's gonna end up hurt at some point probably, which is why I've got DeAndre Swift as a sell high, and Tyler agrees that he's a good sell high, and it's not really a knock on Swift as a talent. I think he's very talented. It's just, and he's in a great system, so you're probably thinking, why would you sell that? But it's the injury history. He's been in the league for 4 years now, and it just, you can see that it's inevitable that he's going to get banged up. Running back's a brutal position. He's getting a big workload there in Philly, which is good for now. But that's the thing. When something's going good for now, that's when you need to take advantage and move on, because this is, to me, the perfect time to move on and sell him because he's been in RB1 so far. Sell him as that. Don't sell low. Just be like, look, I've got an RB1 right here. He's the Eagles RB1, and it's not like you're selling him damaged goods because he's healthy now. The reason I have him though is because with percentages, the percentage chance of him getting injured, I feel is a little bit higher than like a CMC or another of those RB1s. I mean, obviously anyone can get hurt, but to me, it's one of those things. I just don't feel like it's going to last. And then Tyler brings up another good point. Jalen Hurts, the Jalen Hurts effect. I mean, he's still there stealing all the goal line carries. So, yeah, Swift's going good for now, but between the injury history and Jalen Hurts' presence, I just don't see him continuing this pace. So I'd move him now before either he gets hurt or the numbers go down.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There's too many opportunities for those goal line carries to get taken, be it from Jalen Hurts or any of the other 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many good running backs the Eagles have in that room. I mean, it's just there's too many cooks in the kitchen for me to even consider not selling high on DeAndre Swift. I think he's incredibly talented, but you hit the nail on the head there, Spencer.
For sure. And before we get to these questions here, actually one of them is involving Gabe sell high there and Zach Moss. So, yeah, to me this one's pretty straightforward, but let the people know why it's time to move on from Moss.
Yeah, people were hesitant to trade for Moss over the last few weeks because, the looming factor of Jonathan Taylor coming back. But I was one of the fantasy owners who had little stock in Moss, and I left him on my bench this week, and that cost me in a few leagues. He's still got a run of the carries, and he popped off this week. So I think some people will be falling for that. Oh, Zach Moss is still running back 1, or he's still going to be heavily involved. He might be, but Jonathan Taylor just signed an extension. He's going to be more involved as we continue on. So I think definitely after this big week for Zach Moss, it's a good sell high on him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's still JT's backfield. I know Zach Moss dominated last week against Tennessee, which was an impressive performance. I mean, definitely keep Zach Moss rostered. Even if, I think JT's going to eventually take over there, but once he does, it's like don't drop Zach Moss, keep him stashed, because if something would happen to JT again, then Zach Moss would be really good. But yeah, it's a good time to sell him because it's one of those things to where JT is that dude, and he got that extension to where the Colts are definitely going to work him back into being the workhorse. So it's one of those things. Yeah, take advantage of the owner that just looks at the numbers and then look at the context. And if they just look at the numbers, they're like, "Ooh, Zach Moss, he's great. I'm trading for him." So got no context, y'all. And the context with the contract dollars is that's JT's backfield still. And so, yeah, Troy's right. Those carries will decline. I don't even know slow. I think they could decline as soon as this week. Because I think last week was just they're getting JT's feet wet. But I think this week we're gonna see more JT. So I trade Zach Moss now. It's like the hot potato thing. It's like get that out your hands before it burns you.
Yep, for sure.
So got a few questions here before we move on to waiver. Cruz has one for us, a flex question. Sanders, Gibbs, London, Ferguson, desperate for a dub and hate all these options. Yeah, those are. I'd probably go London, assuming it's PPR, because the matchup with the Commanders, I mean, we saw what DJ Moore did against them. I'm not saying London's going to go off like that, but I think he could get at least 5 or 6 catches for 60, 70 yards and a touchdown. Gibbs banged up. Definitely wouldn't trust him. Ferguson, Cowboys aren't doing good right now. Sanders, I mean, I think eventually Sanders could get going, but not a good matchup against Detroit. Well, no, they placed Detroit last week. Who they get this week? The Dolphins. That's not a good matchup either. So, yeah, go London, bro.
Yep, I agree. London all the way.
And then our Zach Moss question here from Zachary. Should he trade Zach Moss, Taylor, and A-Chain for JJ? Yeah, no. I'd kill my RB depth. Still would have James Cook, CMC, and I guess that's Javonte Williams. No, I mean, that's just JJ. Like I said earlier, could end up. I'm not saying he will get shut down, but there's the chance of that is there with the Vikings being so bad. So I would keep your running back depth, and you could trade on it. You could get one of the stud healthy receivers. You could probably do all that if the Tyreek Hill guy in your league is desperate for running backs. That happened in one of my leagues recently. guy gave up Tyreek Hill for 3 running backs because his backfield was decimated. So I would rather that than trade for damaged goods Jefferson.
Yeah, it's simply too much to give up, in my opinion. Maybe if you could swing Zach Moss and HN for Jay Jettis, but no, I mean, put it this way: you don't have running back depth if Javonte Williams is your running back 3, because I'm so ready to just throw all of the very little stock that I have in him out the door. I mean,
Yeah,
for the last
he's
2 seasons,
terrible.
everyone's hyped him up. Oh, if he's healthy, he doesn't stay healthy. First off, Denver stinks. Second off, and third, I mean, he's not the best running back in that backfield anymore. You could make an argument that he's the 3rd best back there, and I don't think you'd hear an argument from a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his first season off the ACL, so it's like I didn't expect him to be very good. I have no Javonte, so yeah, I would, yeah, A-Chain and Moss for Jettis. I'd do that because A-Chain's hurt too. So it's like, all right, well, I'm taking damage goods. You have some damage goods too, and you get Zach Moss to boot. Who, I mean, you never know. I mean, if JT if this ends up a lost season for him, maybe Moss does end up okay. I just feel like it is a good time to sell Moss. But let's see, do we like Thielen season long? I mean, I almost put him on this as a sell high, but I mean, he looks legit to where, I mean, I'd maybe sell high, but I wouldn't I wouldn't give him away for cheap because, I mean, that's the point, sell high, but it's like, yeah, I would want, he's been a WR1 so far. I would want like, CD Lamb's a good buy low right now. I'd want somebody like that, someone that's like a proven asset for Thielen at this point, because Thielen he's getting double-digit targets every week. So,
yeah, that's the big thing for me, and I was super wrong on Thielen. I going into the season, Spencer, I was the biggest Panthers hater, and I'll
about that.
I'll put my hands up. I was wrong about Adam Thielen. He's, as you mentioned, getting double-digit targets, and that's the biggest thing for me. Is he might not be scoring all the time, although he's done well in recent weeks. It's those double-digit targets in PPR leagues. Thielen is an asset, and he was going late in drafts. I was lucky enough to get him in my main league, and he's starting for me right now.
For sure. And our last one before we get to waivers, I got to fill in for Love. Baker, Howell, or Bryce Young? Let's see. Baker gets Detroit. I don't think I'd mess with that. Howell gets the Falcons. They've been pretty good. Young gets the Dolphins. None of those are very good. I'd maybe go Young, though, because they're going to be chasing points, kind of like last week, accumulated those garbage time points. So I think I'd go Bryce Young.
I might still go Baker. I just don't trust those young guys against good defenses.
Yeah, that's a good point. Detroit, though. Detroit's defense is vastly improved. So
they are, but they've had some injuries. They had injuries last week, and they get Mike Evans back, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, it's close. It's close. And yeah, no problem, Zachary. So let's do our waiver segment here. I'll kick it off here with it sounds ugly. He's only rostered in 2.5% of leagues, but Desmond Ridder, y'all, if you really need a QB, Desmond Ridder has a really good matchup this week going against the Commanders, who just got absolutely torched by Justin Fields. I was watching the film from that game. They've got no clue how to defend the pass. I mean, their zone defense was an utter embarrassment. I mean, it's just so many holes in the zone. I mean, it was it's crazy. Fields left meat on the bone. If Fields is a more accurate passer, they had probably thrown for well over 500 yards against them. They suck. I'm sure he's another one that's not a very good passer, but I think another 300-plus yard game could be on the horizon. I know that sounds crazy to think Desmond Ridder, a 300-yard passer, but I mean, he did it last week and gets another cupcake matchup this week at home. That's another thing of note. At home, Ridder is much better at home than on the road, even dating back to college. He was 27-0 at home with Cincinnati. So he's a guy that really feeds off the home crowd. So to me, he's worth a shot here in these deeper leagues because there's not much available at QB.
Yeah, no, as someone who was tortured by Desmond Ridder the other day, I definitely feel that. It's hard because here's the thing, and this is where the Texans struggled against Ridder, is they schemed to stop the run completely, and they did a pretty good job. But Desmond Ridder and Arthur Smith, even they showed that if they can sling the rock around, they got weapons, and I think everyone knew it. And it's a little tease to my segment, but If the Panthers can keep, or not Panthers, the Falcons can keep this up, I don't hate them going forward.
For sure. I got Jeff Wilson here at running back. I really like Jeff Wilson this week and moving forward with Devon Achane banged up because of that Dolphins running game being so good so far to where I think they're going to keep it going. Not saying Wilson's going to be Devon Achane, but it's definitely not going to be all Raheem Mostert. I think Jeff Wilson's going to have a part to play here. And he's a guy that throughout his career has been really good near the goal line. He's been, even when he's not getting a lot of touches, a lot of times he'd still be in the flex conversation because he'd be getting goal line looks. So I'm thinking that he's going to play that role and to where he's going to be in that flex conversation most weeks. And so me, you got to go get him. The offense is so good right now. The number one rushing offense in the NFL. That is not a joke. That is the fact. Miami's offense is so dynamic right now. So to me, you want to get as many Dolphins pieces as you can, and he is one that's going to do really well. So at least the way I see it, because it's a committee backfield over there. As good as Achane was, committee backfield with Mostert. And I know Mostert's been good too, but not only there's going to be like, all right, Raheem Mostert, you're getting 30 carries a game now because Achane's out. Well, we got Jeff Wilson back, so he's going to play a part now. And they haven't had anyone. They didn't really have a third option there. Salvin Ahmed still on the roster, but he's been a healthy scratch most weeks. So I feel like Wilson, he's a veteran. It won't take him long to get up to speed. I think he's going to be a guy right from the get-go.
Yeah, I feel like that Miami backfield is just a perpetual revolving door of guys getting injured at the wrong times for their sake because Devon Achane loses his starting spot, essentially. I know Mostert was obviously the starter going in, but he's worked his way up, and now Jeff Wilson gets his shot. You know, there was a few weeks ago where we were saying maybe Jeff Wilson doesn't even have a place on the roster, but here we go. Now he's got an important part to play in the number one rushing offense in the league.
No doubt about it. And I've got a KJ Osborne and Logan Thomas here, a couple of pass catchers. Like KJ Osborne, feel good about because he's got the guy that's supposed to fill the Justin Jefferson role. So at that line, it's one of those things where you got to get him because in offense, they throw it. They're the second highest rated passing attack in the NFL right now. So I'd go ahead and get KJ. He's going to get peppered. I mean, because with Addison and Hawkinson, it's three guys that eat over there. It was Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, but now Jefferson's out. So KJ's going to have to step up. And we know Kirk Cousins loves to sling the rock. So like him a lot. And then Logan Thomas, this is more of a just this week kind of thing because they've got a really good matchup. Falcons are the second most points allowed to the tight end position. And Logan Thomas been trending up lately. Had a good week 5 back from the concussion. So I think he'll be able to string another good week together here this week due to the matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad to see KJ Osborne's finally getting some love. It's a guy that I loved preseason. So good to see him getting an opportunity.
For sure. And before we get to Gabe's waivers to cap it off, Mike has a trade question for us. Trade Ramondre and Elijah Moore for DJ Moore and Javonte. RBs, Kamara, Pacheco, Ramondre, Ward, and Roshan, wide receivers. Tyreek, CD, Ayuk, and Lockett.
I'm indifferent.
Yeah, that's a tough one to say. I know you like Ramondre, Gabe, but I'd probably do this because, I mean, DJ Moore is a really good upgrade over Elijah Moore. It's just, do you really need DJ Moore, though? If you've got Tyreek, CD, Ayuk, Lockett. This is one of those things. Yeah, you'd be winning the trade on paper, but does your roster really need DJ Moore? So where it could end up needing Ramondre if Kamara or Pacheco get hurt. So for the sake of your roster, I'd probably not do it. But on paper, yeah, it makes sense. But just, I mean, you got to look at context here. I'm glad you provided your roster because if I wouldn't have had that context, I'd have been like, oh, yeah, do that. But looking at your roster, I think I'd stand pat.
I think I would too. You know, in isolation, I love that trade. But when, you know, as you said, given that context, the receiver position on your team is stacked and you might end up needing Ramondre further down the line. So I think I would definitely keep Ramondre.
For sure. So, All right, Gabe, take it away, man. So you got, Derek Carr. Gonna make the Who-Dats happy with this one.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what Desmond Ridder did last week to the Texans, and Derek Carr has got more weapons. He's got a better arm. The Texans secondary is banged up right now. Their linebacking core is really bad in coverage. That's something they got to fix, and I don't know if they can do it in the span of a week. Obviously, you can't get healthy, and we saw the Falcons. As weird as it sounds, the Falcons defense really helped out Desmond Ridder and co. Last weekend, because the Texans were 3 and out off the field, zip zap done, and it gave them a lot of opportunities on offense. So I think we could be seeing similar for the Saints. So if you need a quarterback for a week, I think Derek Carr is definitely one of the favorite plays off the waivers this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. He's been really dreadful though to start the season. So he's gonna have to be healthier and get that arm going. But I think there's a good shot for him to do so because it's a cushy matchup, and Texans still in a rebuild. So yeah, I think be indoors. So I think it's a solid bounce back spot for him. I could see him having his best week of the season this week.
Yep, me too.
Tajay Spears, that's one that I've been high on all year. I've got him stashed in a lot of places. So if you're playing in a league with me, you're not getting Tajay, but most leagues he's still available.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely we've said it all off season and all early in the season. He's definitely a guy you want to stash. I think the Titans offense is pretty dreadful. And Tajay Spears though has been a bright spot. He's been getting more involved. Not only in the running game, but in the passing game as well. And I think he's definitely a guy that, if you're looking at the waiver wire for running backs, he's a guy that'll get you a consistent few points every week, and he's got some upside. So he's only owned in 25% of leagues. That blows my mind when I saw that. So definitely one of my favorite ads of the week.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely should be rostered in more leagues. And you got Robert Woods there going against the Saints. Tank Dell might be out. I'm guessing that's why you got Bobby Trees on here.
Yep, I'm dipping into the Robert Woods pool for a second time in 6 weeks, and it's for that exact reason. I considered going John Mechie. Mechie's had an increased role in the last few weeks. He's done well, 4 or 5 points consistently, but Robert Woods is the one who really stands to benefit the most from Tank Dell being out. He's been good otherwise, even when Tank Dell's been healthy in the Texans offense. But Robert Woods, he was a few catches away, a few drop balls away from having a really good week last week. And I think we see much of the same this week as well.
Heard that. And then you got Jonnu Smith at tight end. He's really been trending up. I mean, Kyle Pitts finally had a decent game last week, but Jonnu was also very much involved.
Yeah, they got them both involved. Jonnu Smith's been getting more and more involved over the last few weeks in the Atlanta offense. And I think if that trend continues, he's not a bad start this week.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it, though. It's Pitts also there. 2 tight end offenses are tricky. But again, the Commanders, they suck. I mean, their defense is awful. So, yeah, not a bad matchup. So, yeah, if there was a needed tight end, Logan Thomas, Jonnu Smith, some good ones to stream. Troy thinks Dak is done in fantasy and in real life. I don't know, man. I think the 49ers are just that good.
Yeah.
I'm not a Dak believer, but I also am not. I think Dallas will still be fine. I still think they'll win around 11, 12 games. Because, I mean, for one, their division sucks outside the Eagles, and they've got a great defense. So even if Dak isn't that good, he can just ride the coattails of his defense. But, yeah, for fantasy, I'm pretty much off of Dak. I'd say it's about time to just drop him in single QB leagues.
Yeah, I agree in fantasy. In real life, I mean, he struggled against arguably one of the best defenses in the league. So I don't think it's anything to panic about.
For sure. So, all right, y'all, that's going to do it for this episode of the Fantasy Roundup. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. It's been fun. We'll be back again next week at this same time on these same channels. Make sure to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel while you're here, and also sign up with Caesar Sportsbook if you haven't already to get in on the sports betting action. For Spencer the Guru Urquhart and Gabe Henderson, for Gabe Henderson, this is Spencer Guru Urquhart signing off on Fantasy Roundup. See y'all next week.